23 as we've taken a couple months off for the end of the year last year. And I've been really looking forward to this time tonight and just wanted to connect with you as educators with some new innovative resources that I have been very busy working on over the last several months. And so we'll kind of get to that in just a few minutes. But I just want to let you know, if you're checking this this live stream, this is on both Facebook and YouTube Live. And the goal of this live stream is to really serve and support your needs as a nurse educator in the trenches, and to empower you with those practical strategies to develop the most important skill our students must possess, which is clinical judgment. And my passion as a practice-oriented nurse and nurse educator is to better prepare students for both practice as well as licensure, and really in that order. And so if you're joining me tonight, I want to just see who's out there. So I see Carol is out there. I don't know where you're from, Carol. I think you're from the East Coast somewhere. I think the Carolinas, but it's a pleasure to have Carol here. And if you're joining us, just kind of throw your name in the chat. Let me know who you're from. It's really exciting just to have educators from all around the country, even international. And my goal is to make this as much as we can a dialogue. I've got some questions I'll be asking, and I really want, you can't zoom in and basically give me your verbal dialogue like a Zoom, but I can put it in the chat. I've got it wide open, and we're going to have a couple questions we're going to ask in just a little bit. But if we haven't met, my name is Keith, and I'm the founder of KeithRN. And you know what? I reflected, it is now my 11th year of doing KeithRN. And it started in 2012 when I was asked by Linda Caputi, who was the planner at Elsevier's Faculty Development Conference in 2012, shortly after I read Pat Benner's work from Educating Nurses. This came out in 2010, by the way. This is still a must read for every educator here that's especially joining me tonight. If you haven't read this, I'd love your feedback on it. But it rocked my world, and we'll talk about its relevance yet today to nursing education, especially as it relates to developing clinical judgment. But I was asked to speak at Elsevier as an unknown educator with some passionate strategies to bring unfolding cases from my lens of practice. And we're going to talk about why Benner's work and why cases should be foundational as we look to our active learning as well as preparing for NextGen. But it was that one event that I thought was a one and done. It just kept going, kept being asked to speak, developed a website, put a lot of my stuff on my website just to serve your needs. And here we are 11 years later. And I'm getting older. My beard is now gray, but I'm still passionate. And I hope you are as well as you serve the needs of nurse educators. But my goal as a practice-informed educator, we got a big gap between how we teach and how practice is experienced. And so, yes, we need to prepare for NextGen. We will talk about that tonight. So stay with me because I have got some brand new tools nobody has seen. Just a few people have seen it. You'll be the first. And I'm just excited to demo it, show it. You can ask questions in the chat. And I've got some unique tools that I think are going to strengthen how you teach, especially as you prepare for both NextGen as well as practice. And so let me just pause for a moment, just acknowledge who's in the chat today. This is really exciting. I've got Sherry from Arizona, Jennifer in Chicago, Ashley, Nebraska, Sandra in Florida, Teddy in Tulsa. I got Karen in Virginia, Kim in Ohio, and Lil. Don't know where you're from, but thanks for joining us. And I've got Tara in Missouri, Lee in Georgia, Andrea in Cincinnati, Cheryl in Kansas, Diane. I'm not sure where you're from, but Diana, yeah, there you go, Florida. Sonia from Wisconsin. I'm a Minnesotan, so I'm here from the Twin Cities in the northern suburbs of Minneapolis, where it is cold and hasn't had snow for a few days, but got plenty of snow. We're still buried. So got, Dr. Lori from Pennsylvania, Carol Cook. Yes. I'm not quite sure where you're from, Carol, but I got Dina as well. And from Arkansas, I got Kim and Carol, Pam and Kelly. Oh, I love California, especially Monterey, Pam. I know you've probably been there. I miss it. Wendy in Arkansas, Kwabena in New Zealand. That's what I love. I love it when we go global And I want you to pay special attention. I hope that what I'm sharing can help serve your needs in New Zealand. I've got Janet in Arizona, Tasha in Alberta, Canada. Love Canada. My father's from Winnipeg and got lots of relatives in Manitoba. So love Canadians. And thank you, Tasha, for joining tonight. I love all people, but you know what I'm talking about. Shireen in Alberta as well. Wonderful. It's great to have Canadian educators. And again, you have the same struggles. I think we all do, regardless of where we teach. And Abby from Indiana, and Siobhan from PA, Charmaine in California, and Stacy in Wyoming. And again, just thank you for joining me tonight. And I've been doing this for the last 3 years or so. Every other 2 weeks, I'll be doing it once a month. First, second Thursday of each month. I'm getting old and I'm getting tired, and I got to kind of strategize. But you know what? I have a YouTube channel, Think Like a Nurse, that has dozens of videos, as well as this is where all of these YouTubes reside. These are Facebook and YouTube streams. I've had some great conversations with other nationally known educators. Lisa Gonzalez was here with me last year. I've had numerous, as well as just my own strategies to help prepare your students for practice. And so if you haven't subscribed, that's my first ask, that you subscribe to that channel. I'll be the first in line. So if you don't join me, you'll get a notification. Oh, had a Facebook Live. You don't have to binge watch me. You can just don't even have to join me tonight. I love it live though, so we can connect and ask questions and get your questions answered as well. So again, I just want you to know that resource is available to you. I also want you to know that I am the admin for an incredibly blessed community of Facebook educators called Teachers Transforming Nursing Education. 14,000 in a closed educator group. I think that's amazing. You guys are amazing who are in it, because it's a community that supports each other. And I've had incivility in the darkest forms in my time that I was in faculty in programs. And my experience, I'm not going to go there. We all have our stories, but we need each other. We can't do this alone. We can't transform nursing education. We can't be the needed change. We can't do what's needed unless we do it together. And sometimes there's not always a support in our programs, but Facebook can be used for good, even though there's a lot of bad in this context. So again, it's a closed group. Please check it out. And basically let that be a resource that can help guide you. I want to talk just for a couple minutes before we jump into the case studies about the differences and distinctives and why I do what I do, the difference between transformation and reformation. And when you look at transformation, Dr. Benner in her book, Educating Nurses, a call for radical transformation, referring to nursing education. But as I look at transformation and why I do what I do, I see transformation as personal. You can't transform and make it completely new a system like nursing education. We're going to talk about what we can do with nursing education to make it better. But the first step is inward personal transformation of every nurse educator. Because see, people can change. People can radically be transformed. You look at, the Scrooge and the Christmas Carol, that inward transformation of a way that you think leading to outward change. And, when we look at nursing education, we must change the way we think. We're focusing on NextGen, and that's going to be on the radar of many of us for the next, for the next few months, especially when we have the first cycle going in April. That's fine. But if there's one thing we must change inwardly as nurse educators, and I know we all know this, but the culture doesn't. It's not about the test. The end goal of nursing education is not NCLEX success. It's practice readiness. And, we have this competing priorities of NCLEX, teaching to the test, give them what they need so our first name pass rates look good for the board and everybody else. And yes, when we teach best practices, we will prepare our students for that reality. But, we've got to change the way we think and align ourselves with teaching to prepare for real world practice, making a difference, communicating the importance of caring for example, the art of nursing, compassion. NextGen doesn't do that. And if we always are, and if we're always focused on think like a nurse, think like a nurse. Now, I like thinking like a nurse, and I even named a lot of my products after that mantra. But you must care like a nurse. In order to think like a nurse, you need to care, and that lens of compassion matters. And so, I want to encourage us as educators. It's kind of like, let's look at the way we're thinking, and then recognizing the importance of embracing educational best practices. If there's 3 paradigm shifts that I want all of you to take into the new year, the 3 paradigm shifts from educating nurses that Dr. Benner advocated in her book were 3 simple shifts of thinking that leads to the inward educator transformation. And that's bringing context to our content. That's the science of learning, by the way, of situated cognition, that when learning has a context, you can scaffold and hook it. You remember it, you retain it. When the lens of practice is reinforced, you also need to bring clinical and classroom together. That clinical learning and the clinical realities are brought into our classrooms. That's why there's nothing better than an unfolding case study to replicate and simulate clinical realities. But then Dr. Benner's 3rd paradigm shift is emphasize clinical reasoning. And again, what framework captures practice-based reasoning? The nursing process, as well as Tanner's clinical judgment model, published in 2006. That was the inspiration of NextGen and their 6 steps. They're just knockoffs from Tanner, added 2 more. They broke down interpreting just a little bit more. But the bottom line is, those paradigm shifts influenced me as a novice educator 14, 15 years ago, and were the inspiration for all that I do with KeithRN. The case studies I'm going to share with you tonight that are unlike anything in the marketplace are an outgrowth of Dr. Benner's work. And so I give her, she has been my inspiration. I know she is for many of you as well. But so we look at transformation as the inward change. As we as educators, we can change ourselves. You see, we can't change the systems by ourselves, but we can change ourselves. It's like the Serenity Prayer. Reformation is changing and improving an institution and improving the culture. And that's where we need to be like light and salt, that we shine and we influence those around us with the truth of of best practices and the best ways to teach. Because when we do that, when we link arms, and it's not just one educator doing it differently, but you're influencing others and you're changing culture from NCLEX success to let's prepare for practice. Let's use Tanner's framework to prepare to develop clinical judgment as our theoretical framework of our program, and not use the NextGen model, which is a test model, and then go back to teaching to the test. That's crazy. So let's kind of look at ways that you are embracing and kind of, so when you look at your program, just would like to get a thought. What needs to be reformed in your program or institution? And what can you do to be part of the needed change? Or what have you been doing already? Because, at the end of the day, I can share my case studies, I can share all my resources, and I've got numerous in my membership platform as well as on KeithRN. But if we don't do these, putting first things first, that's my passion in doing what I do, is just to basically let's transform ourselves. Let's change the way we think. And then let's begin to let that influence be a leaven that literally leavens the whole lump of our programs. And it's my pleasure to provide you with the tools that educators need, and they're time-saving tools that can help make a difference. And so anyways, that's basically kind of my thoughts and my encouragement to you. And I think what I want to do next is I'll kind of keep my eye on the chat, but I am going to share something that is not yet posted on KeithRN. It will be tomorrow afternoon. And that is a brand new level of case study called Mini Skinny. Now, for me, as we look at, the importance of developing clinical judgment, the embodiment of bringing class and clinical together, context to the content, emphasize the reasoning. There's nothing better than a well-written unfolding case study, but yet not all case studies are created equal. And what I try to do differently with KeithRN and the cases I've written now for over 10 years that I've gotten better. I think I've refined them with my dissertation study and the things I learned, but my scenarios come straight from practice. I didn't make them up in the ivory tower. As a rapid response nurse, ICU and ER, I see a lot of stuff and it's great experiences to make them HIPAA-proof, bring them into a scenario or themes. I also use open-ended questions that practice the thinking. There's no guessing or multiple choice in any of my case study questions for most of them, because that's not practice. You see, if we're going to have a case study, it must simulate practice. Anything with multiple choice, even NextGen, is still a multiple choice test. Because when a nurse goes into a room, you don't got multiple options of saying, oh, I read this, I do this, or this, pick one. Doesn't happen. Our cases need to be open-ended like practice. That's what I've tried to do. Use Tanner's framework of clinical reasoning that leads to judgment, the noticing steps, the interpreting, the responding, and the evaluative reflecting. And I also add rationale to every answer. If you're going to have an open-ended response, why do you choose it? Because that evaluates the thinking. That's something even the NextGen cases don't do. They just want to know if you got the right answer. You could have guessed it. I want to know as an educator, why did you choose that? And then basically have them replicate practice. And so here we go. Let me show you mini skinny. And I currently, since they're not on KeithRN, they will be tomorrow a select number of topics. I'm going to kind of share my screen and basically go right here to what I have on my membership platform, which I have over 100 case studies, topics, but 2 different levels have traditionally been there. Skinny reasoning, which has 20 questions. I'm going to show you a skinny at the very end, as well as an answer key, PowerPoint, and everything you need to confidently present this in class. And what I'm going to show you with mini skinny here that you can see on your screen, and I hope you can see this. Okay, I'll make it as big as I can with my with what I have here, is that I have the medical record doesn't look like NextGen. I did that intentionally. I have all the data in a separate medical record for the mini skinny. So I took my skinny reasoning of 20 questions, and then I made it 7, no more than 8. So in essence, it is like my lightest case study, which is really a win, I think, for educators. Even skinny reasoning with 20 questions, you can't do that in 30 minutes. You can take bits and pieces. So what I've done here is that I have an electronic medical record that looks like an electronic medical record, not a file folder like NextGen. And that is basically Epic. I practiced in the Twin Cities. Epic is the dominant electronic medical record. So I use the formatting of Epic for the present problem of the history and physical. Then you have, I'll kind of make this big here. I'll kind of just go full screen and you can see that really well. Then I have the vital signs that looks like Epic, a medical record. And again, the first set of data looking and formatted just like Epic. I have the nursing assessment in the chart. And then I have the diagnostic labs. And again, it doesn't look like just kind of a table. This is the table and formatting that Epic uses, and I love it. And I also have reference ranges for the first time. Again, you have the current, you have the prior, and so your students can kind of look all this over and again, review every aspect of vital signs, the present problem, assessment, diagnostics. Then they go to the case study of mini skinny. Now, mini skinny, again, is only about 8 questions, but now it's basically, you got them side by side, but it's open-ended. What assessment findings do you notice that require immediate follow-up? Then what does the data that you noticed mean? So they look at the medical record, and this is a writable PDF. They can either write it in or they can print it up and they can do it by hand. But again, each aspect of mini skinny, open-ended responses. So this is more difficult than a NextGen, even a 3-column matrix. It's complicated, This is open-ended, simple, like practice. And if there's one thing I want us to remember as educators, our priority is to develop the thinking, not the preparation to do a 3-column matrix, drop down, close, etc. If they know the thinking skills of clinical reasoning and replicating practice in our classrooms, in our post-conferences, in our pre-briefing activity for SIM, they're going to be really well prepared for whatever multiple choice item they see. I think it'll even be easier. But again, you have the concerning, you have the present problem, you have the vital sign. And again, what did you notice? The first part is, what do you notice that requires immediate follow-up? In other words, it's asking what's most important or what's most concerning. Those are all obliterations of noticing that NextGen will ask. So it's asking the same questions that they'll see on NextGen. It just does it with open-ended responses. And then it asks, what does the data mean? That's the second step of Tanner's framework of interpreting. It's also the second step of NextGen. Recognize cues, analyze the meaning of the cues. Open-ended. Do they really know and understand what that is? So again, had that for the nursing assessment aspect of the medical record. The lab values, again, they choose. They don't have multiple guess. This is not going to be, this is different. So once you have that first question, that actually has a few components, because in order to really develop the thinking to prepare for NextGen, you've got to break it down even further. The NextGen just kind of gives you a vomit draft of everything, and now you figure out what is the priority, what do you do with it? But we've got to teach our students to break it down step by step, to look at the present problem, the vital signs, the assessment. Each component of the medical record must be intentionally noticed and interpreted. Once we've done that, and we've done it well, now we go to part 2, or the second question. After interpreting the meaning of clinical data, what problems are possible? What problem is the priority? Then state the patho in your own words of the primary problem. So again, open-ended. What's your hypothesis? This is prioritize hypothesis, by the way, the third step of NextGen in that framework. But instead of having multiple choices or a drop-down close to choose the priority hypothesis, which you don't have in practice, you interpret based on what you noticed. Possible, the most likely or priority. And then I added this. You've got to understand your pathophysiology to be safe in practice. And I want my students to be deeply understanding pathophys in order to develop the thinking of real-world practice. The third question. After identifying the priority problem, the nurse would anticipate which orders. For each order, state the rationale and expected outcome. So this is going straight to the top of Bloom's taxonomy. This is creating knowledge. You're going to have your students now say, what would I anticipate? If I've anticipated that this patient has a heart failure exacerbation, he can't, we didn't look at the data very closely in the story, but this patient has increasing shortness of breath, a weight gain, can't lie flat at night, etc. So again, what would I anticipate for orders? Maybe some Lasix, a loop diuretic of some kind, absolutely, and then state the why and the expected outcome. And this is where you can do for each question in sequence, this is where you can do some innovative group work in the classroom when you use this. You can basically get your students in small groups, give them 3 to 5 minutes, let them present and see what they missed, what they got. And that's where you can evaluate the knowledge of your students and their preparation for the knowledge they need for safe practice and NextGen through open-ended responses. And again, that's responding. That's kind of the aspect of responding for anticipating the orders that we want to be looking for, and then recognize if something's not right that a doctor may order inadvertently. Fourth question. After identifying the current problem, what is the nursing priority? List 3 priority interventions, and then for each intervention, state the rationale and expected outcome. But again, it's open-ended. And this is care planning made simple. We don't have to make it so hard, but we want to have that open-ended like practice. What are you thinking is going to be the priority? Is it going to be that fluid volume excess? That's a good NANDA diagnosis in this context. And then what are you going to do as a nurse in addition to the medical intervention of question 3? Now we begin to look at the evaluation component of care. You've implemented all orders. 2 hours later, the following assessment data is collected. And so now you've got a 3-column matrix. I've got just a couple multiple choices. So I basically kind of, for the most of it, is open-ended at the very front end. I love a 3-column matrix because it really makes that discrimination. I got data here 2 hours later of my TPR BPO2 SAT, and look at my assessment findings that I've selected. Has it improved, no change, or declined? So let's look at a couple. You've got coarse crackles in the lungs. That's likely not an improvement. If they've got labored respiratory effort, that's a decline. They've only had 30 mLs of urine output since Lasix 40 milligrams was given. Well, if they know their farm and they know Lasix, that's not enough. That's a declining. And so you can kind of, as they go through each piece of data, you can see where the check marks are, but NCLEX stops here. And that's really doing our nursing students a disservice. Now, I get it because you can't keep going on forever with NextGen. You got to stop it. I get that. But as we all know as nurses, once you've done the nursing process, once you've done the clinical reasoning cycle of Tanner's, even the NextGen framework, you go back then to asking yourselves 2 very important questions. We got to go back to ground zero again, the first step. Is the overall status, based on what you noticed and interpreted here with the direction, has the overall status improved, no change, or declined? And why? And so again, you can have like a little check here, a little check there, but where's the direction going? And so let's make a determination. Did the patient basically respond to the plan of care as expected? And then this is where it all comes back to full center. That's very unique. It makes my mini skinny open-ended, but then again, coming back to practice. What is now the current nursing priority based on what you evaluated? You see, NextGen's going to stop, and they don't have to think that next step, and they'll be done because students won't do any more than you expect. But we want to prepare them for practice. And so therefore, these next 2 questions that a NextGen case doesn't do are essential. And so what is that nursing priority? Has the plan of care changed? If so, what is it? What are your priority interventions, rationale, expected outcome? And that's where I stop at 7 questions. But now I've added something that Tanner's framework tells us we must do as nurses, as well as students. Reflect not only on how the patient responded, how did you respond as a nurse? What were your judgments? Were they right, wrong, or muddy? So then I asked 3 because this is really like a simulation. You see, even though it follows the guidelines of the essence of the NCSBN framework, which it does very intentionally, but I made it open-ended to replicate practice and conciseness for suitability and flexibility throughout your program. So then you ask yourself, what did you learn? What content or concepts do you need to understand to make better judgments? Because sometimes it's like, I didn't know that. Well, good, write it down. Make sure you understand it for the next time you have patient care. And then how will you apply what was learned to improve patient care? That is really, I think, one of the most important questions our students must always ask. How can I transfer what I learned to improve patient care in the future? And so that's mini skinny. And inside the membership platform, I have this I have the template that the students fill out, as well as RN. I have the medical record on KeithRN as well as in the membership, but there's one thing I don't have, the answer key. I am no longer putting the answer keys on KeithRN. And you know why? They get played because students can purchase. I can't control who purchases from an open website on the internet. And I had a problem in my cases that I've had published for the last few years. Course Hero is the devil. And they were all over Course Hero and every other file sharing site. I said, never again. So my membership platform is secure for faculty only. You have to supply a license number, as well as going through some steps to ensure that you are who you say you are. And if you're not, or any suggestion, done. You don't get in. So the bottom line is that the membership platform, I can provide the answer key. I even provide a PowerPoint for you to present it in class if you choose to. I can't do that on KeithRN, but if you know the content of like this heart failure topic, what I just presented, you don't need the answer key. And so again, I just have a select few topics, but that's mini skinny. I'll have 8 topics on KeithRN posted tomorrow. I currently have 15 topics inside the membership platform. Next month, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, there'll be 30 at no additional cost to you as an educator, because the membership's an all-inclusive buffet. It's kind of like a platform. And so as we look at this, if you're already a member, I just want you to know that you have access to those resources. Let me just kind of put that on pause for a minute and just kind of see what questions you have, if anything. So if you have questions, I'm going to show a couple other levels of the NextGen, of a trend item and a bow tie that I do a little different than NextGen, that also you can purchase on KeithRN individually or get the full rack of information within the membership platform. And I'll share some details on how you can get that. And so, yes, Dr. P has a question here. Will there be a blank template we can use to create our own as well? In the membership platform, I have under Classroom Tools, Dr. P, a blank template of the essence of skinny reasoning. I don't have this NextGen case study template. I may do that here shortly. I haven't done it yet, but I have a complete kind of the skinny reasoning as a template that you can use under Classroom Tools, under Faculty Resources. And so other than that, Carol says, I love how your case studies include the answer keys and they're so thorough. You know what, Carol, when I was a new educator and there were case-based resources and a case study workbook that I came across that was really great cases, I said, where's the answer keys? Because I wasn't confident about everything that I taught. In fact, sometimes I was posing, as we all do. We're teaching content, we're not experts. So I spent hours, and the content experts I work with, I have probably 24 content experts that I collaborate with that are both in academia and practice to write the answer keys. And I totally revised all of the content within the membership platform in the last 6 months. So what that means is this for you: the structure of the case studies are different, the scenarios are different. More importantly, any old KeithRN case studies will be worthless within the membership platform. The cases I have there, I took them all off of KeithRN, by the way. So about the 15 topics I had of skinny and unfolding reasoning, they were 5 years old. They needed to be updated and they were plagiarized. So I guess I said, I'm going to just simplify it and just no more answer keys, give you just a select, like a Costco ample sample. They used to give you good samples at Costco, lots of samples, not so many anymore, but I want to give you that ample sample to see what's on, what you can do and get started. So make that first step. But the membership is really my best and my most all-inclusive platform for individual faculty and departmental memberships. And I'll get to that here at the very end and just kind of share some of the highlights and a special offer I have for individual faculty. So stay tuned. And so anyways, yes, I'm just looking at the questions here. What everything you have to show that not setting up the NGN unfolding case study like the test would be more beneficial. Okay, so Jennifer, that's a great question. The bottom line is this: the case studies that I've written and that represents, it's the same structure of questions, but it's open-ended like practice. And so, yeah, you know what? Someday will I do a study? Maybe. But in essence, my goal as an educator, I think, is just common sense. Multiple choice doesn't reflect practice, even if it's a complex multiple choice. I'm not belittling them. I'm just acknowledging the obvious. And as nurse educators, we want to deepen the thinking, like Socrates, who said, I can't teach my students anything. I can only teach them to think. And that's our goal as well. So that's why I do it that way. And I don't, and so I think the evidence, I think it's just obvious, Jennifer. If you have any thoughts or comments, please pop it in the chat. And Quabina says, do I have to be a member before purchasing? If not, how do I purchase it? Quabina, if you go to my website, which is just really simple, just KeithRN.com, and you go there tomorrow afternoon, I'll have several topics available for purchase of the mini skinny. In fact, the old cases have been removed. And so I'm, I'm kind of in with the old or out with the old and with the new, excited to have that ability. And so anyways, that you can get a selected amount of cases to get kind of the full buffet of the answer key, additional exclusive topics, and so much more. The membership platform is really your best value. And I'll just kind of throw just because I want to kind of get it out there to you all, let me just kind of give you the website that you can kind of just an informational page. You can kind of see some of the new information and what's out there and kind of just the different price points as I'm speaking. But yeah, Jennifer, yeah, there's no worries. I get you. I'm just explaining my perspective as well. And I hope it all makes sense. What I'd like to do is show you the alternative items. All of your students, so in order to prepare for practice in NextGen, they're going to see 3 unfolding case studies with 6 questions, each question a step of the NCSBN measurement model. That's what my cases have, 7 plus the reflections. So again, they mirror. It's just open-ended versus not. And so what I'd like to share, your students will likely also see bow tie as a single item, a medical record, a bow tie. They'll also see trend items, medical record, and a single item. And so I'm going to share you as I looked at how, when I looked at a bow tie for the first time, I loved it, but I recognized immediately, this is not a single item. In essence, your students need to ask 3 or 4 questions to themselves to reason to the correct answer of a bow tie, looking at possible conditions, assessments to monitor, and priority interventions, etc., within that bow tie. So I'm going to share with you a bow tie of heart failure and kind of go back to I'm just going to kind of flip and would just love to get your feedback as it relates to just kind of, any questions that any of you have. Oh no, did I lose my sound? Is the sound still present or not? Or did I just basically, did something happen with the technology? Oh shoot, I am so sorry. Let me just see if, can somebody tell me? Okay, I'm back. You know what I think I did? And I am so sorry. I think that when I went out of the screen, well, thank you all for the 30 plus that are still here. That's a blessing. I'm so sorry about that. You know what? I'm not going to go back. I just, what I will do is this, because I want to value our time. When it started when the sound went when you started the bow tie talk. Well, you know what? Let me just highlight the bow tie here real quickly, because I think that, did you all see it? You probably saw it. I hope you saw it. And would you like me to review it, or would you like me to keep going? And so anyways, let me just kind of know what your thoughts are, because I can go either way with this, and I want to respect kind of your thoughts and your time as we look at this. And so let me know, just kind of, we saw it all, but had no sound. Okay, you know what? No worries. We're just going to move on. I hope what I want you to see, I guess what I want you to understand with the bow tie, as well as the trend, we've got to break down the thinking into additional steps. Okay, some are saying review. Okay, I hear you all. I'd be glad to. We got 15 minutes or so. We'll wrap it up around 9 o'clock. So let's look at the bow tie. I'll just look at the bow tie, not the trend, because I think we're going to see the bow tie really captures the essence of, again, in a single item, we have to break it down with additional questions, because it's not just a single item. That's what I want us as educators to recognize. I think you all see that. So let's take a quick look at that, and we'll do that together as we look at the bow tie. And so let me just go back to my membership platform. I'll just click that. We'll go here, and I'll not do anything. I'll keep myself on the screen. I hope you're still hearing it. And now let's go back. Let's go back to bow tie. All right, really simple. So we have the medical record that's separate. So what I did with the bow tie, I made it similar to NextGen items, because I think that educators want to kind of say, hey, highlight items will be on NextGen. Let's practice that. So I acknowledge that angst, and I'm not opposed to kind of helping you as educators do that. So what I did with the bow tie that I didn't do with mini skinny is that basically the first item is looking at the physical assessment of the H&P. But they're going to highlight each finding from the present problem. So I'm just replicating the present problem here. That's on the medical record. I just copied and pasted, brought it over. But they take their highlighter. They take their, if it's electronic, they can do the electronic highlighting. They highlight what is most important. Then they take what they highlighted, they repeat it here, and then they identify why you choose it. Because we always want to drill down and to determine their thinking, their reasoning of why you chose a selection. That's what NextGen doesn't do. It's just like, oh, you got it? Good, done. Second question is looking at the vital sign component of the medical record. Just take the 5 vital signs. But I use a 2-column matrix just to have fun with NextGen. Is this concerning or not concerning? Top of 98.6, but why? You see, that's what I did throughout this, is that why did you choose it? That's where the learning comes in. That's where your students can identify errors in clinical judgment. The third question is breaking apart the nursing assessment in the medical record. Here it is. Highlight what's most important, rewrite it. What's the interpretation? Then I look at the lab values using select all that apply. And again, just multiple, this is the same kind of formatting of NextGen that they will see. Here are your labs that I highlighted. Why would you choose that as requiring follow-up by the nurse? Select all that apply. No, that's sodium at 132. That is too low. The potassium is too low, etc. But then why? You see, we always want to develop the thinking by asking why. And so once they've done the 4 questions, you see, this is what your students need to do to be successful on a single item bow tie. Looking at the assessment, what do you notice? that's most important and why. Vital signs, assessment, diagnostics, whatever's in that medical record on a bow tie item, as well as in practice. Now let's put it together. What does it all mean? So here's a classic bow tie. It's just low tech, not fancy drag and drop. Accomplishes the same purpose though. What are the potential conditions? Well, heart failure is very evident as an exacerbation. Let's pop that right there and let's just write it in. What are your priority actions to take with heart failure exacerbation? Some of these you'll do, but what's the 2 priorities? That's a higher level thinking. And then look at priority parameters to monitor. And then again, bring those up, discuss it. And that's really your plan of care. I love the bow ties because they capture, as you notice and interpret data, what's the most likely problem? What's your actions? What's the parameters? This is like classic nursing process and care planning, done differently. And I love that. So I embrace the bow tie for that reason. But again, open-ended responses to help define the thinking as well as the reflection questions there. And so that is in essence the bow tie. And so let me just kind of stop sharing here. And what questions do you have with the bow tie item, and just kind of seeing how I've done it differently? You know, my goal is kind of just to think differently. It's kind of my DNA. I'm kind of a weirdo. I've always been kind of that awkward kid, and I'm kind of an awkward adult sometimes, but it's who I am, and that's okay. But the bottom line is I just kind of just looked at it differently, and I just, you know, wanted to do it differently for educators. And again, just do both. Let's skin the cat both ways. Prepare for practice, identify their thinking, and then let's go ahead and let's now begin to, NextGen is here. Let's make it real and let's develop that thinking that's going to prepare them for that as well. And so, yeah, Karen says, as members, are we able to print this to use with our students? Yes, the template, as well as if you purchase the PDF, my license says you can use it to share with your students under the license. My pleasure. Just don't pass it around to other educators. They need to purchase their own. The membership is the same way. You have access to all the tools and what that looks like. Great. I'm glad you find that helpful. Kim says, will there be this type of activity for most of the content in the case studies? These are incredible, and why I think it would be great to have a template to use to create these for content that you're not covering yet. You know, Kim, that's a great feedback. And I do have a skinny reasoning template under classroom tools that's currently there inside the membership platform. But the bottom line is that, you know, I may consider that. Not right today, but let the dust settle, and I'll definitely consider that. And thank you for sharing. You know, my heart is to serve your needs and what you need to be successful and save you time. You don't have enough time in the day. And, you know, that's really the bottom line. So, yeah, thank you for the review. I have several ways to work with students who may not get it one way or another. And Carol says, I just completed my DNP using your unfolding case study format as a template. Yes, Carol, I remember that. And my prelim statistics calculation shows a significant improvement in critical thinking scores on the ATI exam. Wow, that's amazing. And, you know, thank you, Carol. I want to learn more. You got to email me. We need to talk because I know that we've talked about your study. And so, again, the ATI critical thinking score, there's probably better inventories, but it's a start. And let's start the journey of research and really doing what we can to better prepare students for practice as well as licensure. And so, you know, we've kind of answered some questions. I do have a different level. I'm not going to show it tonight. We'll do that another night. The skinny reasoning under the platform. What I do want you to know, all of my case studies now have added assessment images where they have to notice, interpret, and respond to a pitting edema, for example, in an assessment image, as well as embedded links of audio and breath sounds. So they have to look at, they have to click the link to listen, interpret it, and again, simulate practice. And that's my skinny and unfolding reasonings that are much longer, about 20 questions for skinny. It's about 3 NGNs in one, as well as unfolding is about 40 questions. Higher level thinking has an unfolding change of status. And so we'll get to those another time. That'll be another topic. But I wanted to kind of just roll out the NextGen kind of concise mini skinny. So I'm going to call it mini skinny, and that's the concise version. And I just want to kind of just let you know that, what I've got to best serve your needs. And what I'd just like you to know is this, is that if you are if you're contemplating the membership platform as a resource, I want you to know that I have two options for you. You can get access immediately and go month to month as an individual educator, which a lot of educators do, and it's very affordable. It saves you hours of time each month. Go to that site to learn more. And most individual educators do the month to month. You can do the annual at about a 20% discount. If you got faculty development funds, for example, because I got about 20 hours of webinars in the membership platform, that's your best place to start. But if you don't, go month to month, and you can cancel anytime. So you know what? You don't have to stay a member you're not obligated for a year. You can go month to month and just kind of see how it works for you. More importantly, if you find it helpful, I have a departmental discount that I can provide an entire department. This is a value compared to anything that's case-based in the marketplace, typically. And so I just want you to know that your entire student body and your department can get access at a discount as well. And that's on that informational page. And you can see the pricing. And, if you have questions regarding anything that I've shared tonight, I'm always accessible to any educator for any question. And yes, they are additional free CEs. I've already got them accredited, and they are good, and they're international. And so you can use them anywhere in the world and get that CEs. And that's the email address. I do want to share in closing with you this important piece of information. If you've been wondering, kind of like, the membership, should I pull the trigger? Let me help you do that tonight. And it's no obligation month to month. You put in the discount code 50THINK, 50THINK, when you register individual month to month, 50% off the first month. And that, to me, I hope is the best that I can do to kind of say, hey, I think that you've seen a lot of value in what I've developed. Because I have everything under one umbrella, yeah, you can buy a case study, just several case studies. Unfortunately, now I just kind of limited the scope so they don't get plagiarized and everything else on KeithRN. The membership platform is really my best resource for an individual educator, more importantly, a department, to get access to everything at a discount. And so I'll be having I've got currently 30 total NGN case studies on the membership platform right now. So you can use cases right now. And in about 3 weeks, February 1st, I'll have an additional 30 that at no additional cost. I've been working very hard, but it's my pleasure. And I'm excited to kind of get over that hump to say, hey, I've got a resource that can empower you to prepare students for practice and licensure. So anyways, if there's, let me know if there's any other questions that you all have. And I'll just kind of just keep it on the chat here. But I just want you to know that next month, I'll be coming at you here the second Thursday of each month. I don't know what day that is in February, but I'm going to be having a great discussion with Martha Johnson of Breakout RN. She's the owner and the founder of Breakout RN. She does some incredible work with innovation and active learning, as well as escape rooms. And me and Martha have collaborated to develop something unlike anything in the marketplace called clinical reasoning escape rooms. And so kind of taking the best of a KeithRN unfolding case study and an escape room and have something that's unlike the marketplace has seen. And we're going to make that available to you next month. And so I just want you to know it's coming. But we just want to share some of the strategies to better teach, as well as how you could use this new resource that we are working together on. Kind of two are better than one. It's good in life, it's good in nursing education, and it's my pleasure. So anyways, join me in 1 month, and I look forward to connecting with you then. And if you have any questions, it's always my pleasure to serve your needs and answer and help you in any way I can. So thank you for all that you're doing. You're making a difference despite what others may say. And again, teaching the next generation, I think, is the most important legacy that's worth more than silver and gold and whatever recompense we get. So embrace the importance, and may God just strengthen you, and just keep you on the journey, because we need you right where you are. And it's my pleasure to serve your needs. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month. Have a good week. Take care.